to the Stories with Sash podcast, the podcast in which we try and solve motoring-related problems and other bits and pieces as well. On this week's edition of the Stories with Sash podcast, I'm joined by two people who I've known for a very, very long time, and it's a bit of a first on the Stories with Sash podcast because one of them doesn't actually drive, but that doesn't matter because we've got plenty to talk about. So I'm going to introduce them. Rather confusingly, they're both called Michael. So I'm going to refer to them by their nicknames, which we can go into in due course, just for clarity purposes. So, chaps, how are we?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. Well, it's good to have you both on the podcast. And as I just sort of alluded to at the beginning there, I mean, how long has it been since actually we've known each other? It's been an awfully long time.
Takes us right back to primary school, doesn't it?
It
I think it does.
Was it year one?
Two?
Year two?
I think I joined in year two.
Oh yeah, you're a
It
late.
must have been what? 7 or 8?
Yeah, so it's been because you were year two. Me and Dad, technically, our roots go back a little bit further than that, back to the reception days actually. So it's
Really?
I think basically we're in and around the sort of approaching 20 years, if not around that point in time. So, chaps, I mean, when this podcast goes out, it will probably still be it will be the lockdown still, and we've just entered in the lockdown. This is the first weekend. And how's it been for you guys? Have you guys done anything particularly exciting that is of note, or motoring related or not? It doesn't matter.
I can't say I've done anything motoring related so far.
Well, you've done a big drive.
I've done a big drive. So I've moved house for the lockdown because obviously I work away. I'm now living up in the north in the Lake District in a little place called Ulverston. Mm-hmm. So I've got a little place 7 days a week now. So I've moved up yesterday. Big old drive. Collected all my stuff and moved in there for a month.
That's it. And meanwhile, with you, Dave, well, actually, you're not really called Dave, but we'll go for it for this point. But you've been just chilling in our hometown of Worthing, is it?
Yeah, back on the coast. I'd like to say I've done something motor related, but as you alluded to, I can't drive myself. I see a lot of cars out the window though, being on that main road along the seafront, which is quite an occasional bus. No, my girlfriend's come to stay with me, and my dad, which is quite nice. We've been spicing it up in the kitchen, so trying to go quite al fresco. We're making lasagna tonight, but can't say much has changed, to be honest. I'm still going to be working from the den that is my bedroom, and spending 90% of my time in there. But I feel like we know what to expect this time round, right?
Absolutely. And I think
everyone's a bit used to it.
Yeah, not much has really changed. I mean, like we alluded to before, I think unlike last time, obviously some more businesses can be open now. They're a bit more well prepared and so on and so forth. And people are still going to work now and kids are going to school. So it's all well and good, And I think it kind of, during this lockdown, I'm trying to do something that you've just actually mentioned, Dave, which is cooking as well. So I bought myself a cookbook, and actually this very weekend, what I've done is I've cooked 3 dishes, actually. So I started off and eased myself in nicely with a very easy traditional spag bowl. I mean, I already knew how to make one before anyway, but making a bit more of an interesting one.
What do you put in a spag bowl? Are you a carrot user?
Well,
or a mushroom?
Yeah, the dilemma. Celery I've seen as well.
Some people put bacon in.
Bacon?
Mavericks.
Brown sauce?
Well,
it's a must.
Bit of Worcester.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Ian Perry.
Do you know what?
Worcester sauce is available.
I have to say, up until this weekend, I have never put carrots in a spag bowl.
I thought it was traditional.
Huh?
I thought that a carrot was traditional. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, carrot isn't traditional to my mind. I think carrot was a bit weird. It was a bit of a rogue one, to be honest.
You would know, of course, as well, Sash, being so deeply rooted in your Italian heritage.
Well, You laugh, but we can go on to many stories related to my Italian heritage and vehicle ownership. But yeah, no, carrots this time round, and I have to say the carrots were nice. But would I put them in again? I don't know. But normally I'm mushroom because I just love mushrooms. I just think I just think they're just such a, just adds so much flavour. And anyone who says that they don't like mushrooms makes me really, really sad because they just don't know on what they're missing out on.
It's the texture, I think, that get most people. My dad's the same. And that's kind of how I feel about bananas.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, actually, what I also did as well, in terms of another dinner dish, is I did a lamb keema curry last night.
Ooh.
And I have to say, chaps, it's exactly like the picture in the recipe book, right? And it tasted even better. Well, I say that. I haven't tried, obviously, what's in the recipe book, but...
Then the recipe...
You're just eating the pages.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because I think we're agreed on... Well, I think we might be agreed on this. When it comes to curries, I'm not really a lamb type of person when it comes to curries. I think curries are actually better on balance with chicken. But occasionally you do get the really nice lamb curries and you think this is worth it. But I think if you go to like a takeaway restaurant, it's more likely to be not that great lamb as opposed to excellent lamb. But I have to say on this occasion, it was only a lamb ground mince that I used, but it was beautiful. It was lovely. And I would really recommend it. And if you want to give it a go at some point, I'll send you over the recipe because it is really, really nice. It turned out much better than I expected it to.
It's always a win.
Mince in a curry?
Yeah.
So like the stuff you get in a naan, as in a keema naan, but in a curry?
Essentially, yes.
Hopefully
but
yeah.
I have to say, though, unlike chicken, the lamb flavour was very, very rich, because I think lamb is a richer meat than chicken. But it was really nice, chaps. It had peas in it as well, which actually, it actually was very good. So, slightly off topic. Carrot? No.
What was dish 3?
Dish 3 was a brunch, and that was something very simple. Just made Matt Groom's favourite, which is a mushroom omelette.
Oh.
So, but the thing is with omelettes is that I think omelettes are deceivingly. If you look at any recipe, it looks deceivingly simple, and fundamentally they are. But I think the execution of an omelette can go either way. If you just don't do it right, when you flip over the edge and try and put it on top of it can go completely tits up.
It's often what defines a good chef.
Can they make an omelette? That's
true.
true.
It's the first test.
2 or 3 eggs?
I went 3.
No, I always go 3.
Yeah, I always think 2 isn't quite enough.
2's just an egg.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, the thing that it just says, don't whisk it, though, because then it becomes scrambled egg. It just says give it a mix.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, to be fair, out of the 3 of us, I must confess, my cooking isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not necessarily that imaginative, but I think, Dave, you'd agree with me that Donna's cooking is probably most certainly the best out of the 3 of us.
Oh, absolutely. But the only time I've ever had a beef Wellington was when he made it.
Yeah.
That was speciality.
That was an exceptional beef Wellington. I mean, I am conscious that we've gone slightly off topic, but on the cooking theme, actually, is that, well, maybe I'll let one of you tell the stories in a bit more depth because I can ramble on a bit. But a few years ago, we went on a road trip, which I suppose is the premise of this week's podcast. What is a good road trip? What defines a good road trip? And we drove from essentially Turkey all the way through Europe and back to England. Now, I don't know whether you guys, do you want the honour of telling the story or do you want me to go into the storytelling?
You're the natural story.
And if we're talking about people's strengths here, yours is definitely in storytelling.
Well, this is
cutting the long story long. I think you should take it.
Long story long. Well, essentially, if you're an avid listener to this podcast, you may have recalled a previous episode which I spoke to my teammate Rob on the Mongol Rally, in which we drove all the way to Turkey, and then for various different bits and pieces, the car was left in Turkey and we went our separate ways. But I arrived in the UK, and this was sort of August of 2016 period. Got towards the end of August, and I'm thinking, I've got a car registered in my name in a different continent. I kind of need to get that back at some stage. So I thought to myself, well, how am I going to do that? I looked into maybe potential shipping and stuff like that. It just wasn't viable. But I wanted to bring the car home because I think that's what it deserved. So I thought, well, I'll just drive it back, but didn't want to do it by myself because it is quite a long way in that particular car. So I hunted high and low across people I knew, friends, family, not even, I don't know, just random people, just anyone who fancied a jolly or fancied this mission, shall I say, to get the car back to England. And particularly I wanted somebody who could help me with the driving, because that would, help with the load, help with the stress, blah, blah. It would be absolutely fine. And I couldn't find anybody for the life of me. So,
and going back to then, I couldn't drive either.
Yeah, I was going to say, back then, neither of you, well, Di, you still can't, but yeah, Donna, you couldn't drive. But you guys were the only ones that were keen to get involved and do it. And
stupid enough.
Well, from your guys' perspective, I think it's an opportunity that nobody should ever take down, because it was a 2-week jolly across Europe. And yeah, I mean, it's what a fantastic holiday. You get to see places that you wouldn't ordinarily see when you go on your nice 5-star hotel holiday or whatever it may be.
We threw our hats in the ring like right from the beginning, Sash. Like we always wanted to go. You were so desperate to get anyone other than us, someone who.
We were definitely last, bottom of the pile.
Look,
bottom of the list,
guys. I
was already on the plane, and he still didn't want me there.
Yeah, I know. You guys got the tickets early. I mean, obviously not on a personal level, but it was just your qualifications just weren't fit for purpose. But I ended up with you two, and I say ended up in a nice way because, well, as we'll go on to, we went through quite a lot of. I think it was a very successful trip. But
we made it back.
We did make it back, and I'm just trying to think, where did the picture start? I mean, well, first of all, looking back on the trip now, is it an experience that you guys enjoyed / would recommend? Now, I do it in this order for a particular reason, but I guess we'll go into the depth of it in due course. But thoughts, 100%. Highlights? Yeah.
I'd definitely do it again. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I still can't drive, so it'd be none of the work, all of the pleasure for me. But
I also thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a cracking 2 weeks. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Would I do it again in that car? No.
No.
That's the main point that we're dancing around here. We need air conditioning.
Yeah.
The fourth passenger as well, that big old black box he kept in the back seat.
well, the black box will come in due course. But I think I think the point being is that throughout this trip, which we shall tell the story as we go along, I think we each one of us took three different roles throughout the trip, not necessarily 3 separate roles, but different roles throughout the trip. And I think without the combination of all of us, it wouldn't have been the success that it was. But to paint the picture, right? So this was probably, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks before actually due to go. We're sitting in my lounge in Worthing, and we purchased the tickets. I think it wasn't massively before, like it wasn't long, and unlike anything that, it was kind of for me, but for you guys, it was a single ticket, right? No return ticket. And I think not a lot of people probably do that. They normally tend to buy the return ticket on a holiday. So that was obviously the bit of the rogue thing. I think we went Pegasus at the time. We got our very, very cheap flights because nobody actually wanted to go to Turkey at the time because they had the coup a couple of months before, what have you. But I think 75 quid later each, we got ourselves a one-way flight to Istanbul. And I think I'm right in saying, did we get a free cheese sandwich with the flight?
We did get a free cheese sandwich.
We specified non-meat.
Couldn't be trusting the meat on that plane.
No, honestly, the meeting that was, I don't think that. I think that was a wise choice. We got a bit delayed, but we ended up getting to Istanbul fairly late, about, I don't know, 9-10 p.m, something like that. Might have been a bit
dark.
later. It was dark at that point, right? Anyway, so we're stranded at the airport. We've got a very, very nice hotel booked, courtesy of Donna's booking. And obviously it was quite cheap back then. And we arrive, and we just need to know where we're going. Now, I must point out, at this point in time, this was the period before phone providers, such as, your Vodafones and what have you, actually gave you free internet abroad, like, using your own package deal or whatever. So you had to pay for internet, right? Now, obviously, because of that, we were kind of going back to university and so on. We weren't flushed with cash by any means. So we didn't want to necessarily pay the £3 or £4 a day for internet and what have you. We hopped into a cab. I told the man, where this address is, right? Just showed him. I can't remember what it was. What did I do? I showed him.
You had a printout of the address of the hotel.
Yes.
You got in the front, and Turkey wasn't exactly the safest place at the time. We're all a bit sketchy. We don't know what's going on. We've just paid our money to get into the country. And we hop in this taxi, and I'm like, Sasha, have you got this? And you're like, yeah, I've got this. And, you've been there before. You know what the situation is. And I've never been so less filled with confidence in my life. When you turn around to this taxi driver, showed him a piece of paper and just said,
Uh-huh. But he knew, right?
He did know.
He did know.
Eventually.
Well, we board the plane. We board the taxi. We go to the hotel. We spend a nice evening. But then it actually gets a bit weirder, because I think we were quite hungry at this point as well. And we're sort of, we dump our bags off and we're starving, right? And what do we want? So we go into this place, which I can only liken to sort of the Turkish equivalent of a Subway, but
that's doing it. That's painting it in a highlight.
Well, chaps, I can't even remember exactly. We sat down on this table, and obviously in Turkey, I don't know whether this is still the case, but this was you could still smoke indoors and you could do all of this stuff. In the UK, that's been different for a very long time. And we sort of order some food, and this waiter, I think, comes around with was it a plastic bag or some description?
Yeah.
It was some plastic tarpaulin. It was like a scene out of Dexter.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, actually. I think it was literally a tarpaulin thing that he puts on the table, and then just starts building this salad pyramid in the middle. And we're looking at each other going, what on earth is this? And I mean, the long story long again is just that, we ate this and we were very, very confused and didn't really understand what the culture is with plastic bags in Turkey. It's the first and last time I've ever seen that happen, to be fair. But fair to say, I think I don't think that was quite the most normal experience that we ever had. But I think the food was all right.
Yeah, what do we have, like a kofta or something?
Yeah, I think so.
It was edible. It was fine. I've just never eaten salad directly off the table.
Yeah, no, that bit was weird. I tipped the lovely gentleman, a cigarette, and we were on our way.
Oh yeah, yes, you did. He was very appreciative of that, I remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, fast forward the clock. We're in Turkey still. We wake up the next morning. We need to go to my relative's place to go pick up the car, and we're a bit hungry, obviously, in the morning. So we go. This is quite a food related podcast now. Come to think of it, but we went to the local McDonald's. And guys, what was it? We ordered the equivalent of a McMuffin.
It was just an egg McMuffin.
Yeah.
And that's key to this story is that it was an egg McMuffin.
Yes. It was an egg McMuffin, but then we got it back, and when we opened up, stuff up, it seemed to have this weird. I don't know what it was. Was it bacon? Was it?
It was meat. It was meat of some kind.
It was a thin slice of something unidentified.
Yeah.
A little bit of spicy. Very.
Yeah.
It was pretty tasty.
Yeah, it was very tasty. I'd eat it again.
If you were a vegan, or not vegan, but vegetarian, expecting your egg
Yeah.
and just egg, you'd have been quite disappointed.
Yeah.
Did we go for the
Yeah.
Egg McMuffin because we suspected that something like this might happen, or did we just fancy an Egg McMuffin? I can't remember. I mean, it's not really.
I also think our interpretation of the Turkish menu might have been a little bit wrong.
Well, it is amazing how much the McDonald's menu varies depending on which country you're in, because it is very nation-based, and we have further McDonald's stories as we go on throughout this trip. So anyway, we go, we get another taxi. This guy this time didn't know where the address was, and I had to actually get Google Maps up on my phone and direct him to my relative. Yes, it was quite it was quite bad, actually, to be fair. But we got there in the end, and it was extortionately, it was quite hot in Turkey at that point.
Yeah.
Definitely somewhere in the 30s. And we pick up the car. It's a bit of a weird deal, I just pick up this car, and I leave you guys to, I think, Donna's, both of you make sure that everything was strapped on the top that we needed. Actually,
what are those things called?
Ratchets.
That was it. Can I just say how amazing, or how amazed I was to actually see that the car was still there? I really was convinced it would have been nicked, because you're away for a couple of months, weren't you?
Yeah, it was about 2 months, give or take. You're right, actually. Yeah, because then we did have that joke about, what if we just turn up and there is no car there?
It's just 4 wheels.
There's just, but now I can't remember the exact story, but did I tell you before we left what the contents of the car, what contents was actually in the car, or was that a mystery?
Well,
you said you had some
on top, small box in the back.
Yes. So would you like to tell the ladies and gentlemen listening to the car that I think you were slightly surprised by some of the contents in the car, and and maybe the amount of space that they took up?
Well, and I'm trying to remember here. I mean, obviously you had some stuff on top. You had that empty jerry can.
Yes, I
which,
did.
Again, was never used.
I think it was for show.
You had that black. How big was that black box? It must have probably weighed about as much as me. And again, you didn't use it for any point, throughout the trip. Like, it was
to this day, I don't know what was in it.
What was in the boot.
And you had 3 back seats, and it was 2 and a bit long. This box.
Yeah.
I mean, it gave whoever was in the rear not most space. They had about, I don't know, maybe 0.8 of a seat. I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. Maybe 0.75.
Some high levels of comfort.
We would now. All that weight that we put on.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
I definitely wouldn't.
No, don't. You'd need at least 2 of those seats.
But yeah, we get there, and there's some stuff in there. There's some questions to be asked, but obviously we'd made sure that we packed the essentials. So each one of you guys have got yourself a sombrero. I have got myself a little summer hat, because it's still quite warm over there. We want to make sure we're protected from heat stroke. Anyway, my aim was to get out of Turkey as quick as humanly possible, because I didn't have a great experience there the time I was there before. It was still a bit sketchy. I think out of all of the trip, it probably felt like the least safe feeling place out of all of the countries that we went to. I think that's fairly agreed. It just was a bit odd, right?
It was an awkward time though, wasn't it? It was tensions were quite high.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's like that all the time, but at that particular time, you're right. It was slightly odd.
Really friendly though. Like we were being beeped. Like people were shouting at you in a friendly way from their cars.
True.
I think they were just happy to have us there.
Yeah.
Tourists coming in.
They were very accommodating, actually. That's a good point. I had forgotten about that. And I think you guys remembered when we exit Istanbul, that you go over the bridge at which technically what was back then, you're going from Asia to Europe, right? It's no longer the case like that anymore. And I think you're right. You would commend my driving at that point, because it was extremely busy, the roads. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was, you know, swerving in and out of traffic. And obviously, because I'm driving a car with the steering wheel on the wrong side, it is a little bit sketchy because you're trying to look out. So I can't remember which one of you was at the front, but you were guiding me and blah, blah, blah. And we you know, so anyway, we got out. We eventually, I don't think anything particularly spectacular happened in Turkey, but we exited Turkey and we arrived in Greece because we had chosen to go this route. And I must confess, Donna's was primarily in charge of accommodation throughout this trip. I'm going to say that from the get-go. And to be fair, well, no, actually, is that fair? I don't know. Maybe that's not fair.
I think he booked it all of the places. Yeah,
I think I did accommodation.
Probably fair.
Yeah, no, I just I don't know whether you guys you might have consulted.
Yeah.
You know, but I have to say I didn't have any involvement with the accommodation as long as it had facilities. I wasn't too fussed. Anyway, we arrived to Greece, and I have to say, what was the first place called again? Do we remember it?
Alexandroupoli.
Alexandroupoli, yes. And I have to say, I still maintain, you know, when you finish work on a Friday and you have that first sip of that first beer of the weekend, right?
Yeah.
That, me and you, Dar, we're sitting in the little balcony area, lovely place by the sea, blah, blah. And I'm a bit tired, a bit exhausted, a bit sweaty. And around the corner, I see Donna's just coming by. And what's he got in his hands? He's got 3 Methos beers, which are like in these little steins.
Methos.
Right? Honestly, that I still maintain that's probably one of the best first sips of a beer I've ever had in my life, if not the best, because I just remember like all my worries just disappeared with that first sip of Methos. And I have to say, go on.
I was going to say, I've never seen such excitement off 2 faces as I came around the corner with those beers.
Brilliant. It was so picturesque. Like we had the place had a little patio terrace bit out the back, and there was the beach just there. And it was all lovely until I can't remember which one of us went to use the facilities. And at which point we found out that the plumbing system in Greece wasn't quite up to the standards in the UK.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. So
how did you forget? I'm still scarred.
No. I remember the later parts, but what was the deal? Was the deal that you put toilet paper down the bog?
You couldn't, no.
No, in the bin.
You had to put it in the bin next door.
Oh God, I forgot, but that was dreadful, wasn't it?
I just seem to remember Dar coming out the toilet. They'd be like, "Thomas, have you seen this sign? You can't put the paper down. What am I going to do?" He was like, "Do I fold? Do I just throw it in? What's the technique? I've not been taught."
I was as baffled as you guys were, to be honest.
Steep learning curve.
I mean, you're right, but I have to. Well, the picturesqueness of the place definitely outweighed those small problems which we had, and then because I think Greece was the country in which we spent the most time for the trip. So I mean, I don't think anything particularly exciting happens. Well, not exciting, but out of the ordinary happened in Alexandroupoli, apart from the discovery of the fact that you can't use bog roll in the bog. So then afterwards we head to another place, and I don't know what was the other. Did anyone remember? I should have drawn a map or something like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't come in with a list, Sash. We need to.
I've probably got it somewhere. I think it might have been Asprovolta, but
Asprovolta
could be wrong.
No, well, while Donna's maybe checking that through, Asprovolta, if it is indeed that place, we had a couple of more stories with that place. I seem to remember.
Yeah, it was there.
It was there, right? So
which one was Asprovolta?
The one that
we
had the experience.
Oh, gee.
Oh, hang on.
No wonder I couldn't remember it. I've erased it.
Was that the second? So let's say that was the second night, because I think that was the second night in Greece, right?
Yeah, it was.
So we're going to Asprovolta, and if I remember correctly, just before we arrive at this hotel. I think it had rained and there was thunderstorms on the way and stuff like that. And one of my wipers had broke on the car. And actually, this is only one of 2 faults that actually happened with the car on the way. Now we get to Asprovolta. You guys are obviously confused as to why the wiper's broken. I was like, don't worry, chaps, I've got it sorted. A bit of cable tie, we're good to go. But it turns out that was probably the least of our worries for that evening, because we had other things to come later on. And we sat down, we had some nice beers, and very kindly, I think the owners of the hotel actually gave us a free lift to the town centre in their minivan. Is that correct? I think that's correct.
Yeah, they did. Shuttles. They did shuttles to and from.
Yeah,
they
and
did.
I must point out at this point, I think accommodation cost for that evening was very minimal. It was about something like €30 or something
I
stupid
seem to
like
remember it being €30 for the three of us to stay, have a beer each, have some beer snacks, and a lift to and from town.
Yeah. Which
is crazy.
It was the bargain of the century, and I have to say throughout Greece we got very good service for very little money in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, we have a lift, and we go and get this nice pizza and go to this restaurant or what have you. And I think it's fair to say, Dave, that you had a bit of a turn of the worst in the sort of your stomach area. You weren't feeling too great, if I'm right in saying. Hopefully I haven't mixed up the nights here, but I think that was the one.
It was the foreign water, I think. I don't know. I took a turn. Quite all right.
So obviously, we go looking for facilities to use. You're not feeling that great. I need a wee, and we go looking, right? Anyway, I think Donna's had gone at the earth at this point and found a portaloo of some description. So he's off there, and I'm thinking, now we won't use a portaloo. We use proper toilets, right? Well, so we go to these toilets. And Dad, I don't know if you want to say this part, because I feel like it affected both of us. But I think you went into a different level compared to me. But we both opened the door to this loo, and I have never seen anything. I've just never been so flabbergasted in my life. Because, well, do you want to tell the ladies and gentlemen what we discovered?
Just shit, like everywhere, like completely. Full in the bins, in the toilets, on the wall, handprints. It was horrible. It was like something out of a really dirty film.
Yeah, because there was, like you say, there were no other way of saying this, excrement handprints on the ceiling, which I was quite baffled about.
Thinking back, actually quite impressive.
I mean, that must take skill.
Or just a very tall man.
Or just a very tall man, absolutely. And obviously at this point, Donna's wasn't here, and we call him over, and we don't actually use the facilities, I recall, because I think we were just so.
You couldn't.
You couldn't. You couldn't use it. So we leave. We go to get Dollars. We're like, Dollars, you're not going to believe this. I mean, I don't know why we put him through the pain as well of actually watching it or witnessing it.
He wouldn't believe it otherwise.
No, I don't think he would have. So yeah, we had that, and so we were a little bit sketched out by the whole experience there. And then time goes on, and we go on to a next place in Greece. Now I can't actually remember. Well, we're driving along to the next place. I don't know, Donna's, or any of you, if you remember where that was. Come again?
Platamonas.
Okay.
I think Platamonas.
Now, is that, if I remember correctly, was that when we were going to that destination? Did we go through the monasteries on the way to there, or was that afterwards?
That was the day after.
The day after. Okay. So I don't think. Oh, Platamonas, was that the one with the?
That was where you cooked us dinner, Sash.
Oh yes, the dinner story. So
yeah.
So we arrive in Platamonas, quite a nice place, I think, by the seaside, actually, if I remember correctly. But we arrived on an absolutely horrid day in which, Greece had very severe thunderstorms, and it was chucking it down, and we didn't really want to go outside. So we thought, well, let's try the local cuisine, but we didn't want to go outside. It was a bit far, and I thought, well, guys, don't worry. I've got great news, because in that box that you guys were questioning, I had some secret stashes of food. And what was it? It was 2 boil in the bag full English breakfast packets. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. I've never used it before. I'm not really a big camper, but I thought, well, for the sake of us not going outside, let's have this instead. So anyway, I'm like, boys, don't worry. I'm on dinner duties tonight. I'll sort you out. I come back and I present you with your meals. And for some reason, you guys weren't very happy about it.
Do you remember this, Donners?
I remember it vividly.
The only time Sasha offers to cook is because he's siphoning off rations for himself. So Sasha's given himself one whole portion of it, and he's given me and Don Levy half each of the other one. He didn't mix it all together and give it equally.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't do that. But my argument was at the time is that, look, in terms of critical people on this mission, I was the most critical because I was the only one with a license. I was the only one who could pilot the car to its destination. You guys, at that point in time, you were like Robin to Batman. The sidekick, the proto. You guys have got to. I'm not saying you didn't do anything. Obviously, you had major responsibilities, which we'll go on to. But mine was most critical.
You had a kitchen to cook your food.
Yes.
Yes. It's your bloody fault the car was in Turkey in the first place. We were helping you.
Yeah, but anyway, that's beside the point. So so we cook these nice foods. We get really satisfied by the meal, and we move on. We go on to the final place with Greece, which I think was a place called Igoumenista or something like that.
Metsovo.
No, Metsovo.
Yeah.
That was in between.
Oh, that was in between. Right.
Yeah.
Did anything happen in Metsovo?
We went to the monasteries on the way.
Yes, we did. We did.
We were in that nice hotel.
Yeah, we were.
We were in that nice hotel. And that was really nice. So for those of you who don't know or aren't familiar with the Greek monasteries, they are, there's no other way of saying it, is there? They're like...
They're built into cliffs.
Yeah.
Like sandstone cliffs. They're just sort of built on the side of them and carved out.
Yeah, exactly. And they've just got these like little footbridges that go across them as well, if I remember correctly. Now, we wanted to go see this. And actually, I think this was a find of you guys. I wasn't aware that this was even there. And we went there. And what happened? Well, actually, Dar, you got turned down because you were wearing some disrespectful clothing, according to.
According to too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a bit too much leg.
Yeah, but which is kind of ironic because we were all wearing shorts, though, weren't we?
Yeah, we were wearing shorts, just some longer than others.
Oh, right.
You guys are wearing 3/4 lengths, if I remember.
Yeah. Anyway, we went there and it was at beautiful monasteries, and I'm really glad that we went to go see it. And that was very all picturesque and so on. And I don't think anything particularly, worthy of storytelling happened there. But yeah, that was really nice. I remember Dar wanted to stop and send a postcard because he likes sending postcards. I remember we stopped somewhere on the way down from these monasteries. But apart from that, that was about it. But I think the final place that we happened to go to in Greece was a place called Igoumenista, if I'm right to say. The beach. Well, yeah, we stayed in that really, really nice hotel with do you remember when we arrived there, the guys gave us some shots or something?
Yes, the welcome shots.
The welcome shots. So we get presented to this nice thing. There's this there's really nice decorated interior of this hotel, blah, blah, wooden thing. And that was really nice. You had got the welcome shots. It was really nice. Donners went for his run.
The old days.
The old days. And you had a nice, it was much cooler up there because you could tell being up in the mountains. And that happened. And what else happened? Oh, yeah, there was some odours coming from the room from certain places, which we won't go into. Which I got accused of falsely, and I still maintain it's Dar.
Quite effort of you two.
No, it was definitely you, Dave. It was definitely you. But we move on, and then the next day we're due to catch a ferry. Now, this ferry is going from Greece to Italy. And we arrived there quite early, and we spent a really nice day by the beach. I think fast forward going on because I don't think anything again particularly exciting, but a beautiful beach, lovely countryside. We had about 6 hours to kill. We killed it, and then we arrived on the ferry. Now this was, I must point out, an overnight ferry, and I don't think any of us have ever done an overnight ferry before. No. I certainly haven't. So you load the car onto the ferry, and you spend the rest of the evening in this. I was going to say swanky ferry, but it isn't.
I'm going to go back a step there, Sash.
What happened?
And just run you through what you told us the procedure was to load onto the ferry.
Okay, I can't remember. What did I say?
So we pull up and you say, "Oh, you have to go through like customs and control. Only the driver can go onto the ferry." To which I'm like, "Yeah, fair play, makes sense."
Oh,
and then you say, "I think we need all of our luggage checked as well." So you ship off me and Dar onto the side of the road to go through the person-sized metal detector.
Yeah,
as you normally do in the airport. And we're stood there in this sort of waiting area with all of our luggage, like all of it, on our shoulders, being dragged behind us, whilst you have the nice leisurely task of just driving onto the boat. We're the only people with luggage. Everyone else has just got either like a phone or like a handbag. And we're chucking all of our luggage through. And we're getting looks like, "Where's your car? Why didn't you put this in the car?"
Do you know what? I'd forgotten about that. I had completely, but I swear the email specified that. I mean, obviously I misread it, or that's just not a local done deal. But we got onto the ferry in the end. Some of us more strenuous tasks than others, but we got in there. The car was loaded. We had a good few hours there. We were staying overnight. Anyway, we found the accommodation where we'd be staying for the night. Again, we didn't have any internet or anything like that. And the Wi-Fi we didn't go for it for whatever reason. And we had a really, really nice dinner, if I'm right in saying that, chaps. Would you like to tell the viewers, or listeners, should I say, about what we had that evening?
I'm just hoping that the spaghetti bolognese that you cooked this weekend tasted nothing like the one we experienced on that boat.
It's disgusting.
You weren't a fan, were you?
No.
I mean,
it was like a buffet type affair, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was something of that nature, I think. But I remember being very, very hungry at that point. So I wolfed this down. We all do. I think we're all very hungry because of obviously the previous night we only had had a bag of beans or whatever for dinner, or the day before, whatever it was. Anyway, so we get in there, all is well, we're kind of chilling, and you guys, and I must point this out, one of your responsibilities, were on playlist duty. So we go back to our room, and now I have to say, I wasn't that bothered by the whole sleeping in the ocean overnight. I actually found it really nice. It was a very pleasurable experience for me because I found it quite satisfying just looking out your window in the morning and just seeing the ocean. I don't know, there's something about it which I think is quite nice. But I don't think all of us had quite the same nice experience, should we say, as some others.
You can't pretend like you enjoyed the rocking motion. Like, that was awful.
I mean, it wasn't great, but I kind of dealt with it quite fine. I just think that obviously, I think were both of you sick?
It was all. Oh, it was lucky it was a wet room. Jesus Christ. It was kind of like a dual. I was multitasking because I was showering at the same time, so it kind of worked out in my favour.
Just one big drain in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because because I remember the bog roll getting really, really wet.
That was the shower.
Okay, that's reassuring to know. So yeah, I mean, we arrived there. A couple of us are sick or whatever it was, and we arrive on the other side, and we arrive in my home. Well, not home country, but my mother's homeland, which is the Italy. We arrived in this lovely port. we arrived in this lovely port town of Bari, which is only situated a couple of hours south of where my relatives live. Anyway, we go off and we see the local cuisine again because we arrived there in the morning, And it was about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock maybe, and we go to the local McDonald's. And I have to say, that was quite a nice McDonald's breakfast, actually.
I think this might have been one of the best McDonald's breakfasts I've had.
What did we have again? Can you remind me? I can't remember.
Egg and muffin.
With sausage.
Well, but they did those lovely espressos there, which were really nice, or like nice coffee with it. It was really, really nice coffee, and I enjoyed it. But again, as I mentioned before, we didn't, there was no internet facilities for us back then unless you wanted to pay. So I got chatting in my fluent Italian to this local, and said, "Can I? We're going to Pescara. Can you lead us to the motorway?" Because previously we tried to log into the McDonald's Wi-Fi and that didn't work. And she was like, "Yeah, no problem. Just I'll follow you in the motorway." And I can't remember what happened, whether I got lost or whether we just didn't end up doing it in the end. But we just got hopelessly lost, I think, for a little while.
Well, I think I knew how good you were at directions, and we sort of asked ourselves the question of what happens once we get on the motorway, or off at the junction we need to go.
True. No, you're right about that. So I think we ended up just coughing up the few quid for the internet and going all the way to my relatives. Now we arrive at my relatives. All of this is fine. And we have a really, really, really nice lunch. We pitch up about 1 o'clock. And I still maintain, I think that is the greatest volume of food I have ever consumed in one day. Like,
I'd agree.
I don't think I've ever eaten that much in my life, because we'd had this lovely, we had some gnocchi. We had some gnocchi pasta. It was very, very nice. I remember it nice red wine, get introduced. And I think, some time passes by and we're still eating and we're having this lovely red wine. And then my uncle's next door neighbour comes around with this nice Vespa, and I'm speaking to this the owner of this Vespa in fluent Italian, obviously. And well, what was it? The phrase that I used, chaps, that sort of gets me by in the Italian, in the thick of it. See,
Molto bene.
Molto bene, exactly, molto bene. And for those of you who don't know what that means very good. So there's this guy who's speaking to me in Italian, who's owned this very, very nice Vespa, and I don't know what else to say apart from it's very good. So all I keep saying is,
I don't think you could say anything else.
No, I think you're right. Anyway, some time passes by, and I don't know about you chaps, but the amount of food we ate lunchtime could have done me for the rest of the day quite easily.
Well, the courses kept coming.
Well, it did.
Yeah, it was a multi-course affair.
Oh, I thought pasta was a main course. I didn't realise it was a starter. So when I asked for seconds, I didn't anticipate more.
No.
Aubergine came out.
Oh, yeah, the aubergines. Oh, that was nice. Yeah, that was really nice. But, some time passes by. We're quite tired still. I mean, the amount of food and wine that we consumed, I needed an afternoon siesta. So we go up, we chill. Anyway, I just get information from my cousin that something is happening at 6 o'clock, right? Because, actually, rewind a bit, because you guys asked me, what's the plan of action? I was like, guys, I don't know, but all I know is that something is happening at 6 o'clock in the evening.
This is in the stage where we still think you can speak Italian.
Yes.
And there is a lot of conversation going on, and you're sat there going, see. And me and Dar sat looking at each other like, we haven't got a clue what's going on. We hear the number 6, because we recognise that.
Yeah. Being
referenced. And we're like, cool, something's happening at 6 o'clock. You're there fully in this conversation. Yeah, see. And then we go upstairs and we're like, right, Sash, what's happening? He was like, I don't know, but something's happening at 6 o'clock.
Yes. I do remember that vividly. And obviously 6 o'clock Italian time really means about 7 o'clock real time. And then we have, something comes around at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and we have this lovely barbecue, and which I didn't think I'd have the capacity to eat, but we did. We managed it, and I think you boys would agree that it was a lovely dinner.
What were those?
Really good.
Those things, the sticks with the meat.
Skewers.
Those little kebab things.
Oh, good.
I have honestly. So I'm. It wasn't my first rodeo with them. I mean, every time we've been there on family holidays, like it's just like it's like I don't know what it is, but it's like a local Italian speciality. They do this specific thing that's those little cubes of meat, and they're just beautiful. Like quite salty, but the salt just adds so much flavour. Honestly, it's wonderful. If I could find anything like that in the UK, I mean, I'd bring it along to the next barbecue. But genuinely, nothing like that really exists over there. Next time we go, chaps, we'll find out if we can find a recipe or something like that that can give us a bit more light on that. But we actually stayed. So I think this was the only place throughout the trip which we actually stayed 2 nights in the same place. Because every other time we wanted to vary the trip, but obviously it's been a while since I saw my relatives, and so on and so forth. And I don't think we went on. I think after the barbecue, I think we went on a bit of a night out in Pescara. We had a few cocktails, a few bevies, and that was really, really nice. And then I don't think anything particularly exciting happened afterwards. Obviously, we went for a nice coffee and breakfast the following day and lunch and what have you. And I think I'm right in saying, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see my relatives, but I think, we'll go on to this, but I think everyone had a good time, which is the main thing. And then I'm
great part of the trip.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did it actually, because it ended up playing quite effective. But then, I mean, I'm not going to go into as much detail for the remaining part of the trip, apart from the fact that when we went to the next stop in Italy, we were staying. I can't remember what the next place was.
Riccatoni,
yeah.
Riccione.
Yeah, something like that. And
God, how do you pronounce it, Sash?
Yeah, rigatoni. But we went there, which was really, really nice, and it was again quite hot, and but it wasn't situated. It was a nice. Oh, actually, I remembered something. It's situated by the beach, and I don't know if you remember. We were by the beach, and do you remember we saw that sign called A Style?
Yeah.
And obviously, you're listening to this podcast going, well, what the hell does that mean? But as far as I could tell, it was, well, essentially somebody performing the doggy act in sexy terms. Because that was the shape. That was the shape of the sign. I couldn't believe it, because they're like, is that so? Anyway, we won't go into it. But anyway, we weren't that far from a place called San Marino. When I say a place, I mean an individual country called San Marino. And we all decided pretty much last minute that should we go to San Marino, because, well, we can just say we've been to another country. And we went to San Marino that evening, had a nice dinner, had a nice pizza, and then just drove back. So we managed to get, because there's obviously there's no borders or anything like that. You don't need technically a separate passport or anything like that. There's nothing like that. Yeah. So yeah, we went there, very, very in and out, and that's another one off the bucket list. And then I think afterwards we go. We basically drive through Switzerland. We don't stay the night in Switzerland, and there was some heavy traffic actually at some point. It was raining quite a lot, and then basically we arrive in France. I don't want to give France any discredit. I mean, I still think that we had a great time in France, but I think the weather did take a little bit of a turn at that point, and it was quite grey, was a bit cooler.
It wasn't as nice.
It wasn't as nice, but we did have our fair share of trying the Abyss budgets in France, and
we went staying in these lovely little hotels in Greece for like no money whatsoever to paying. I mean, it wasn't terribly expensive in France, but
it just got more expensive.
And the highlight in the Abyss budgets was trying to climb through the ladder. Do you remember that?
The bunk bed ladders.
Yeah.
Bed ladders that Sasha got stuck in.
Yeah.
Boys, please don't leave me here.
So, I mean, these Abyss budgets were a little bit odd. Actually, we'll touch upon this later. So, obviously, there was 3 of us. And what was the arrangement was you tend to have a double bed. And above that double bed, sort of perpendicular to it, was just one single. So what I did is I took the single and you guys took the doubles, right? And obviously there's a ladder that goes to the double. So we all decided it'd be a great idea and it'd be a good laugh if we could try and fit ourselves through the holes of the ladder, the steps. And obviously, Dar, you're not the tallest of blokes out there.
Got to do with fitting through something.
Look,
It's width, Sash. It's width.
It is width,
Just trying to
but
through it.
generally speaking, the taller you are, you tend to be a much slightly bigger build, right? And
That's
obviously,
that's true.
look. Anyway, the point is, I out of the three of us, and I didn't think I was going to sit through it. I mean, I
was not the widest.
No, I mean, yeah, that's true. So, Dar, you fit through. I'm not going to say no problem, but you fit through.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Donners, I can't remember what happened. Did you fit through?
Oh, I got through.
There
was quite variation between the different hotels. I fit through about 2 out of 3, I think.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Do you think that was affected by what you ate that day, or do you think genuinely there were different sizes?
Different ladders.
Different. Fair enough. For those of you who wants to try this at home, if you're in the next Abyss budget, then please give us a go and let us know. And I couldn't fit through. I freely admit that I can't. I got stuck. Feared for my life at one point. I thought maybe that the fire brigade might have to come and chop one of my legs off or something like that. But we made it through, and I mean, like I say, I don't want to go into too much depth because it's. I mean, we know the memories and we know everything like that, but I don't think anything particularly spectacular happened in France.
It was the. I don't know how much you remember about this, but Sasha would always wake us up about 6 a.m. even if we were leaving at like 9, just to make sure we were awake.
It was the fact that. We'd tell him the day before, Sash, check in at the next place. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock. Cool. How long's the drive? About 2 hours. No problem. I'll wake you at 6.
Look, the way he'd do it, it was a little bit. It was infuriating because I'd be sound asleep and then I'd feel a sharp grab on my thigh. It would be like, I don't know. It's like being woken up for school when you're on your last warning. Like Sasha's hand would come on and he'd squeeze my leg and he'd be like, wakey, wakey. He'd always say, wakey, wakey. And that would get it. And already I'd be well angry. And one morning, now the furniture in these Ibis, and obviously you're in quite close proximity. You've got the shower in the room with semi-sufficient separation, sort of frosted glass. For whatever reason, they put as a door instead of a door handle, just a hole in the door. And I remember this was a perfect sort of lying down height, and because of how high off the floor the bed was, it was also perfect to accidentally look through while Sasha was showering and to see a lot more than I bargained for.
Yeah, it was kind of like perfect,
was perfect. Like I could see everything. It was mad.
Yeah, I'm not particularly sure why they do that either, because like you say, they were in close proximity. So I mean, that was a bit of a laugh. It's all well and good.
Dynamic.
But yeah, but I mean, so the whole trip took us about a couple of weeks, and I know I have obviously missed out on some points or whatever, because we did actually change the route that we initially intended of going. So we were going to do a bit more time in Italy. We were going to go to Venice and Verona. We decided that from a kind of cost and time perspective, it'd be better to just neglect that and just keep going, which I think was the right decision to do at the time. I would like to go back, but I think, we sort of touched upon it at the beginning, but you guys, despite obviously the bits and pieces and the way we are and so on and so forth, enjoyed the trip. I think that's fair to say. And it was both of your first time in Italy. I don't think any of you had ever been to Italy before.
No,
I'd never been to Greece before. I'd never been. I hadn't been to those countries before. So I think I was pleasantly surprised by the trip. Not that I was expecting it to be bad or anything. It was a laugh. It was a
great 2 weeks.
Yeah, we didn't fall out really.
No.
Well,
no. me and the box did.
Yes.
Still not.
No, let's not talk about the box. The box remains unnamed in this. But no, we had a really good couple of weeks, and I think we've all come to the conclusion that we would do it again. And to a certain degree, we kind of already have. I mean, again, maybe for another time, but last year, sadly, Dar, you couldn't make it. But me and Donners, we went on this very, very lovely wine trip across France. Not the width of France, but just we went as south as Lyon sort of area. But it was wonderful. And I tell you what, yeah. So as we're saying, we're going to plan to drive around Spain for a bit and then go from there. But unlike this time, what I discovered last year when we did it in your car, Donners, was that obviously there is a bit of difference. Driving a nice newer car with air conditioning does make a world of difference, and we can live that slightly more luxurious life. So, and I think the point is that obviously not in the current world that we're living in, but under normal circumstances, these trips I think are one of my favourites for a few reasons. One, they're so incredibly flexible, right? And I think we're right in saying on both trips that we've done that we didn't plan where we were going to stay no more than a night ahead. So a day before, we would literally look and go, where do you fancy staying tonight? Where's realistic in terms of our progress? And just go from there. And I remember last year,
a bit of excitement.
It does. And this is what I like about a driving holiday as well, because it's so much flexibility, because you can just say, well, I fancy going to place X, for example. And you think, yeah, let's do it. Whereas if you're, stuck to a schedule going somewhere, it's just, I don't know, it does take the fun out of it. I mean, for instance, last year when we were boarding a ferry to go to France, we hadn't got anywhere booked when we arrived in France at the time. We literally booked it on the ferry. I mean, it's,
that was a bit last minute.
That was very last minute. I mean, but the beauty of modern technology is it's just so simple to do these things. So yeah. I think that's it. But I know I'm conscious that maybe some of you listeners are thinking, "Well, there wasn't much car content today," but it doesn't matter about that. What the point that we're trying to make really is that these trips, like I say, under normal circumstances, a bit more difficult at the moment, are very easily done. Very easily done. You jump in a car or you rent a car, you decide where you want to go, bish bash bosh, you're good to go. I haven't got any particular advice on the matter actually, but I don't know whether you guys had any sort of final remarks. It sounds like you guys would recommend a trip like this to anyone if they're interested in this sort of thing.
Yeah, make sure the music's good.
That is key.
If you're in a car for hours a day, you want to make sure that the tunes are adequate.
Make it topical as well. Work out where you're going. Yes. If you're in Italy, get some Italian tunes just shuffled into that playlist.
And that's what we did, actually, isn't it? Well, I say we, you guys did. And I have to say, I'll sort of maybe wrap it up on this remark. But when I did it last year, just with Donners, I have to say, Dar and Do, I didn't give you guys enough credit back in the day when we did our first trip. It was tough. Managing all these devices and managing the tunes, it's hard. It's a hard gig. It's a tough gig.
I mean, to be honest, I think driving is the easy bit.
I'd agree.
I wouldn't go that far.
I can drive now. I'd agree.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it's pretty tough going, driving.
Still, I than a laptop.
Well, I certainly. Well, anyway, I mean, it doesn't matter. Well, hopefully, Dar, you might actually have a license by the time we go on this trip.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to that one. Backlogs.
No, I joke aside. I mean, anyway, well, I mean, hopefully, who knows where we're gonna be by June or whenever we're meant to go. But I'm staying and remaining positive that things should look up a bit more by then, and we'll be able to go and have a good time. But I think we've been rambling on for a little while now, so I want to wrap this up. So what we've really concluded is that driving holidays or road trips are great fun. We'd really recommend it. We've obviously got we've obviously got our preferences and so on, and we're hoping in the future, obviously, to do the trip and the trip that we planned on doing, and maybe do a bit of wine tasting and so on and so forth. And I would really like to do in future years to come a typical American road trip.
Yeah.
So I think that would be great fun. Rent a muscle car and go from there. But I just want to say thank you very much, chaps, for participating in this week's edition of Stories with Sash. I think you'll agree that this is probably the best podcast since sliced bread. And I just want to say thank you again. I think at some point it would be good to get you guys on again for maybe some more serious car chat, because I know we haven't really got into any depths with you, Donners, and the fact that you're actually in the market for a new car. Yes. And your job does depend a lot on driving. And perhaps with you, Dave, in the future, when you actually get your license, you might actually be looking for a car. We don't know yet, but you might be. And if that's the case, on this podcast, we want to give you, some sound advice. And normally Mike and Rob do appear on this podcast as well. So maybe it might be good to get something sorted. But I've got nothing else to say, chaps, unless you have got any final remarks. Do you have anything that you want to plug? You selling a book or anything, or business or anything like that?
No,
I don't know.
Actually, what we will do, because I'm a nice person, is Dave, your girlfriend's got a podcast, which I'll plug, just because. Well, why not? What is it about again?
Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It's about new businesses starting up over social media during lockdown. So obviously trading conditions have changed significantly. And it's about surviving, really. It's about little startups and what they're doing and, the interesting ideas that they're coming up with. As I say, I can't remember what it's called.
What I'll do is I'll put a link to the podcast in the description of this one when I publish it.
Thank you.
But go check out that podcast. They're not as long as these, which is probably a good thing. Obviously, Donners, have you got anything that you want to plug or anything? Or?
I will actually promote something as the chance. My dad's recently written a book.
Yes, he has, in which I've ordered actually.
Oh, have you?
I have, yeah.
Has he sucking you into that as well?
No. I've just ordered it.
Fantastic. It's sort of talking about journeys and trips and everything. He basically he's a non-religious man who did a pilgrimage across northern Spain over the course of 5 weeks, walked about 500 miles. It's just sort of a book about the trip he went on and sort of what it meant to him. It's not like a calling in life or anything. It's light-hearted and quite funny. Mm-hmm. But it's available to pre-order now, and it's called There's Something Going On by Simon Don Levy. So pre-order now.
Pre-order now. When is that out again, Donners? Do you know?
I think it's the 16th or the 26th. I can't quite remember, of November.
Right. I seem to think
it's available in print or Kindle.
Okay. Well, when I'm planning to release this podcast, it should probably be out by then. So hopefully, go check that out. It'll be a really good book. And that is actually quite topical because we have talked about journeys and road trips and so on and so forth. So good point to end. Chaps, thank you very much for joining me. And what I'll do is I'll play some outro music right about now. I'm not going to bother giving your Instagram handles because you don't have Instagram. So we'll leave it there.
Will you link my Bebo?
I'll get your. Have you got MySpace?
I'll put you in my my MSN little personal message.
MSN, or I could drop your business emails if that's any good. No,
please don't.
We won't do that. If you need any advice, but yeah, thank you, chaps, and we'll speak again soon. And thank you to all those listening. And stay safe and stay well during the next lockdown period that we are currently facing. So thank you, chaps, and ta-da.
Cheers, Sash.
Thanks for having me. Us.